Hello everyone, and thank you for coming to my snapshot presentation. My name is Vasilia Karasava, and I will be presenting a working conceptualization of how moral disengagement explains image-based sexual abuse, a form of technology-facilitated sexual violence that can be defined as the creation, distribution, or threat of distribution of someone else's nude or sexual image without permission. We took on this work because research is increasingly looking at IBSA. However, the literature remains disjointed with little theoretical connection between studies. The first set of moral disengagement mechanisms is focused on the harmful act itself, in this case the perpetration of image-based sexual abuse. The non-consensual dissemination of nude or sexual media is thought to often take place when a relationship ends, which is one of the reasons why it has been dubbed as revenge porn. In these situations, especially when the relationship ends after cheating, the narrative is created where the person who disseminated the pictures only did so because they felt disempowered, humiliated, or deeply hurt. You can see this mechanism at work simply by seeing the names of websites that host image-based sexual material. MyCheatingX.com and MyEx.com and so forth are some of the most popular and prolific image-based sexual abuse host websites. Using the mechanism of moral justification, in the eyes of the perpetrator, their actions are justifiable as they represent a way for them to gain back power and control. Alternatively, perpetrators may engage in euphemistic labeling, or in other words, claim they engaged in image-based sexual abuse to be funny or as a mean to make a joke or a prank. A recent study found that approximately 31% of the participants who had disseminated sex without consent did so as a joke, with male participants being significantly more likely to endorse this excuse. Finally, using advantageous comparisons could take two forms. First, perpetrators may compare their actions with other forms of sexual abuse or other crimes that they perceive as worse, like rape. Alarmingly, this moral disengagement mechanism may not be employed only by perpetrators. For example, in one study, researchers found that 36% of the asked officers did not disagree with the statement that online harassment is less serious than traditional harassment. Another approach of advantageous comparison would be comparing their actions with any grievance they had with the victim that they think would justify their actions. By implying that whatever the victim did was worse or at least equal to the non-consensual dissemination of the private pictures, they are able to take the moral high ground. The second set of moral disengagement mechanisms attempts to blur the relationship between the harmful act and its potential harmful consequences to the victim. Regarding displacement of responsibility, in a sample of adults, 14% reported they had disseminated a sex without consent because someone else asked them to, and 8.5% because they felt pressured to do so. In order to diffuse responsibility, IBSA perpetrators may point out the commonality of the practice or argue that sex usually end up being seen by more people than those that were sent to anyway. Finally, individuals who perpetrate image-based sexual abuse may downplay the seriousness of their actions by claiming that image-based sexual abuse is not a big deal. Of course, this is not true. Research has shown that although the abuse may take place online, the impact on the victim is very real. Image-based sexual abuse victimization can lead to serious mental illness like depression, anxiety, and PTSD, with many victims attempting or even dying from suicide. Unfortunately, image-based sexual abuse seems to go almost hand in hand with victim blaming and dehumanization. As a matter of fact, in a sample of Australian adults, 70% agreed that individuals should be wise enough not to take the intimate image of themselves, and 62% agreed that someone who sends an intimate picture to another person is at least partially responsible in case a picture is posted online. Victim blaming in the context of sexual abuse is generally accepted to be heavily influenced by gender biases. This is mainly because of the sexual double standards that prescribe women being judged more harshly than men for their sexual expression and behaviors. The manifestation of sexual double standards like this is in situations where men are rewarded for having multiple sexual partners, whereas women are viewed as promiscuous and sexually deviant. Typically, women who are deemed as promiscuous are punished with ridicule and personal attacks. A similar response is also typical for female victims of image-based sexual abuse, who are deemed as sexually promiscuous despite them never giving permission for their pictures to become public. The potential harassment fueled by victim blaming experienced by image-based sexual abuse victims may have far-reaching consequences, including victims not seeking legal action or police assistance based on their fear they will be judged. Thank you all for your attention. For any questions or comments, don't hesitate to reach me at my email or on Twitter.